I have a roomie that lies about everything. Bad lies. Illogical lies. What are your best pathological liar stories? There was a girl in my school who claimed she had a boyfriend. None of us believed that to start off with. Then one day she claimed that they were no longer together because his head had been chopped off by a snowboard. I hope this isn't true because it made me laugh out loud. I once dated a girl who was beyond pathological. She literally maintained separate identities for the different people she'd hang out with. I eventually found out she had different wardrobes for her different personalities, would affect different accents, would claim different tastes, wear different makeup, and even give different personal histories. It'd be impressive if it wasn't so malicious. I think that's a very different serious mental disorder. Knew a girl who claimed to work with the mafia, who would kill her boyfriend because she was going soft. Then she claimed to have broken into the zoo, crept into the tiger cage, and sat with them. She said they all piled around her and she slept there. I don't even. Actually, sleeping with a bunch of tigers sounds really cool. True story. My best friend Ryan and I used to be friends with this girl who claimed to have a boyfriend from the next town over. Now, this boyfriend was bisexual, and all of his Facebook pictures were obviously those hot emo guy pictures from Google Images. She told us to add him, and when we did, he began to message Ryan. Their conversations got more and more personal, and eventually caused Ryan to come out of the closet before he was really ready. Yes, Ryan is gay. During this time, he pulled away from all his friends for about 3 months, but apologized to everyone over the summer. In the fall when we went back to school, apparently the boyfriend had moved across the country, gotten AIDS, and committed suicide. Once again, Ryan became depressed because he truly thought that this guy was real and was his friend. He began cutting himself, taking drugs. He became anorexic. I was worried sick about him. Later on, come to find out, that friend of ours had made up this guy because she was curious as to whether or not Ryan was gay. Needless to say, we don't talk to her anymore. That's so fricked. This story reminded me of that 13-year-old girl who committed suicide because of a fake person she talked on MySpace, was really a bully at school and the bully's mom. Imagine if Ryan had become depressed enough to question whether life was worth living. Ugh. Crap like this makes me sick. Kid that went to my high school and lied about everything. One of his biggest lies from 9th grade. He claimed he had somehow managed to order 12 kegs to get delivered to his house for a party he was going to have, but his father came home just a few minutes after the kegs arrived. In lieu of punishing him, his dad agreed to split the kegs and they drank all 12 kegs of beer in that one evening. I've quit smoking, but quitting my pathological lying is proving to be much harder. I have to be 130% conscious and present in everything I say, or else I'll lie constantly. Meaningless things. It's horrid. Awful. I've hurt so many people in the process, but I'm determined to become the person I really am on the inside. In a very strange twist, I'm usually much more honest when I'm behind the anonymizing mask of the internet. Weird. This is where most people lie. My brother had half my family convinced he had cancer once. He made a huge show of it to me as well, sitting me down and crying with me, telling me everything would be okay. He didn't have cancer. I have never forgiven him. What an butthole. I've told my friends that spamalopes are an actual animal, that the letter W was added to the alphabet in 1932, and that Steven Tyler can unhinge his jaw to swallow prey up to twice his size. Someone actually believed one of these. I told a friend that marshmallows grow on bushes like cotton once. I'm pretty sure she still believes that one, and I'm pretty sure Steven Tyler can do that. My sister's ex, not at the time, told her he was a long-haul truck driver and would spend only a week or 2 at a time with her, and that he hadn't got paid yet, so she would pay for his food, give him money and let him stay at her place. Little did she know that he was doing this with all his other girlfriends. Evil genius. I've known a girl for a long time who always had a problem lying. Some days she'd say she had 7 siblings, other times it was 9. She had 2. She'd tell people her father was dead and pick obscure celebrities to be related to. The worst though was when we were seniors in high school and had an introduction to psychology class together. We started talking about post-traumatic stress disorder when this girl raised her hand with a story to tell. She said that her brother was recently deployed to Iraq and saw his best friend die. But not even that, he saw the bullet coming towards him, miraculously turned his face just in time to miss being shot and witness the bullet hit his friend instead. Clearly this didn't happen, unless her brother was Neo. I knew her brother, he was a security guard at a nearby college. The class was just awkwardly silent afterward, because it was obviously bulls. Sometimes I felt bad for her, but mostly it was just annoying. My one friend when I was in 3rd grade would say the stupidest stuff for attention. My dog had puppies. She claimed that her indoor cat suddenly got pregnant and had one single kitten, describing the gestational period as a few days, but her mother made her give the kitten up for adoption. Her cat was a male. My other friend in high school had several imaginary girlfriends from another school with various popular names like Ashley Smith or Brittany Brown. Occasionally he'd mix them up. If we wanted to meet her, he'd show up late and say she had to go home or off. I thought you said to meet an hour earlier. She got pee and left. Everybody knew he was full of crap. My one other friend bragged about his 12-inch penis, knowing full well that nobody wanted to check and see if he was telling the truth. We all ignored him. To be fair, having a Jesus kitten is a pretty awesome lie. There was this fight on a Facebook status update that I watched happen live on my newsfeed, and some dumbass kept calling this girl a chronological liar instead of a pathological liar. It was hilarious. Well, if she lied time after time after time, I guess you could argue he was right. We were working on a project called Fuel PDX on Fire, which was intended to be a massive exposition of fire sculpture, performance, art, etc. We took on board this woman who claimed to be a fundraiser. Over the course of many months we thought she was in contact with a number of funding sources, including liquor, soda, etc. Turns out none of that was true. Thinking a check was arriving literally any day, I sent off a check to Arc Attack in Texas for $4,000, as well as spending about $1,000 on our non-profit project, Toolshed, thinking that it was about reimbursed. It was all lies. When we finally got the truth out of her, we found out that she'd simply gotten way over her head and not known how to tell us. Our entire business almost went under because she was a liar. I'd never had $5K to lose before, and haven't since. It's been 2 years trying to build up the business again. What a flaming bee. Hope she burns for this. I posted this here once before, but I think it's a nice little story, so here it is again. I had been close friends with a girl, I'll call her Frances, since elementary school. In high school she had become the new leader of our small group of friends. She was a pathological liar and constantly made up these very obvious lies, just because she liked the attention, I guess. Some of her lies included: she has lupus, she had leukemia when she was in elementary school, her dad just died of a heart attack. I later found out that 2 weeks after she told this lie, her dad did actually die, but in a car accident. Ironic. She was a professional horseback rider and was scheduled to ride in a competition held by the President of the United States. She called it the President's Cup. I used to take horseback riding lessons with her. While she was a decent rider for our age, we competed in the same division and she rarely placed well. All of her friends really truly believed this stuff. I started to call her out on her balls and she got mad, so she started to then make up lies about me. Some of which included: I was a drug dealer, a lesbian. This particular group of friends was pretty homophobic, that all I do is trash talk others behind their back, and then her generally negative attitude towards me rubbed off on others because she was the leader. I lost all of my friends except 2, who weren't friends with Frances, and was constantly made fun of and picked on by all of them. One day, one of my ex-friends from that group met me in the parking lot of school. "OMG, did you hear about Frances?" I said I had not, and she proceeded to explain to me how she had spoken on the phone with Frances' mother and mentioned the cancer. Her mother was very confused and said that her daughter never had leukemia. Then, one by one, all of the secrets that Frances told were proven wrong by her mother. She lost every single one of her friends. She transferred schools halfway through our senior year of high school, and everyone stopped hating me. I never became friends with those B again, but it was wonderful to watch Frances experience exactly what she had put me through. TLDR. B made my life heck in high school with her lies. Lies were later found out and everyone stopped hating me and started hated her instead. It's never lupus. Been there, lived that. I found my best course of action was to call it out every time. Not being an but because I deserve the respect of not being constantly lied to. Said person ended up flopping, blaming me of causing their depression. All because I refused to buy what I knew was blatantly lies. Fun times, man. Pathological liars don't know how to handle being caught in their lies, so they tend to react in extremities. Most people recommend either going along with it or ignoring, ceasing to befriend the liar when it comes to these situations. But I'm glad you called them out on their lies. Your feelings are valid and you have a right to act accordingly. Oh my god, have I got some good ones for you, Reddit. So first off, this girl I know took people's pictures on Facebook and claimed to have drawn them in charcoal pencil. It emerged slowly that she just took their Facebook photos and put them through a Photoshop effect, considering she was pumping out like 5 every hour. Second off, she decided that she would lie to everyone about what college she got into. She claimed she got into USC with a full ride scholarship. This was disproven within days because they hadn't handed out any scholarships at that point. She loves to lie and no one knows why. She loves to lie and no one knows why. Sounds like a classic rock line. I gotta believe my old roommate takes the cake here. A few selections of absurd claims he made. He once drank an entire keg of beer by himself in one day. During his freshman year he had sex with 12 different women in less than a week. He turned down a football scholarship to Notre Dame in order to pursue his dream of playing professional hockey. He once hit a hockey puck so hard that it went straight through a solid brick wall. He used to be able to run a 4-minute mile. Had a pet raccoon that he domesticated and nursed back to health after finding it in the woods while hiking. As in a fully grown raccoon at the time he found it. Domesticated. Yep, he flew search and rescue helicopters after Hurricane Katrina. He came across Lance Armstrong once while they were both cycling on a road in Austin, TX. Lance told him, and I quote, "You look like you know what you're doing. All of these amateurs get on my nerves. They look stupid trying to ride bikes. Why don't you ride with me?" He made all A's because he slept with all of his female professors. Peace the resistance. After my other roommate and I had left him alone for a weekend so we could go home, he told us that he had thrown a huge party at our house. Not only did he throw a party that would make Van Wilder blush, but in the middle of it the SWAT team busted the party. Apparently everybody was doing body shots and having sex on the furniture when suddenly the lights went out. A smoke grenade came through one of the front windows. A flashbang went off. Then the SWAT team kicked down the front door. Also the SWAT team had laser sights so there were red lasers going through the smoke. The reason there was no evidence of any of this was because after they didn't find his drug stash he told them he was going to call his attorney if they didn't get a repairman out there immediately to fix the windows, replace the door, and clean the floor. I'm sure there's many more, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head. It was honestly kind of sad. I mean, I really think he was somehow completely incapable of telling the truth. Just stupid crap too. It could be 112 degrees outside and if you asked him what the weather was like outside there was a good possibility he would tell you it was nice and cool. I have a fraternity brother we will call Jimmy who is tall and extremely lanky. He is honestly about 6 feet 2 and about 150 pounds. He always tells us stories about how he constantly fights and wins against people that are far bigger and stronger than he is. He told us he once fought an entire offensive line to defend the honor of one of his lady friends in another city the night before. Now we all know that he is full of crap, but we listen and tell him how impressed we are with his skills. But we always joke about it behind his back. One of the stories we like to ask him about is when he had to fly Air Force One to rescue the president because he was the only one qualified to fly the plane. Heck, you're gonna feel pretty stupid when he saves your life one day. In 7th grade, we were talking about 9/11 in social studies class. Our teacher asked if anyone knew anyone who experienced it in the first hand. A known liar in our class said that his dad saw the planes crash on the news, then immediately jumped on a fire truck that was headed toward NYC. We live in upstate NY, so it's a 5-hour drive. The teacher called him a liar in front of the whole class. As an interesting tidbit, I was in my 7th grade social studies class when the news broke of the attacks on the Twin Towers. When I get drunk, I have the strangest urge to tell people I fought a bear once. I don't think I've been drunk enough to actually tell anyone that for quite some time though. Kind of related, when my ex's dad gets drunk he likes to tell the story about how he killed a bear. He actually did, but since he's drunk when he tells the story, no one ever believes him. I used to know the queen of total bores. She was my friend's girlfriend. Nobody ever called her on any of this because my friend was totally in love with her and p-whipped, and it would have crushed him. Keep in mind that this was back in the late 80s early 90s. 1. She had a degree in marine biology but she chose to work minimum wage jobs at record video stores because she didn't want to pay a lot taxes to an imperialistic government. She did not have any kind of college degree. 2. In her late teens she was a professional skateboarder. Yet in the 2-3 years I knew her I never saw her on a skateboard. Nor did she recognize names like Christian Hosoi or Stacy Peralta. She was also clumsy as frick. 3. She had been friends with or partied with countless cool celebrities. Everyone from the punk kids from the 1984 movie Suburbia to big name LA rock bands like Motley Crue. She would try to add authenticity to this by referring to celebrities by their first names. Tommy and Nikki used to hang out at my apartment after shows. The funny thing was her timing was always off. The same year she was supposed to be getting her degree at San Diego State she was also living in Hollywood and had an apartment right off the Sunset Strip. 4. She had also been a model in LA, and her photos appeared in national magazines. I'm trying to be nice but this girl was not even close to being model material. She wasn't even cute. She was also about 5'6" and had no body at all. She never once produced photographic evidence that she had modeled. 5. This is the best one. If I hadn't heard her say it with my own ears I wouldn't have believed it. Sometime right after high school she lived in the UK. Another lie. You know what she did in England? She donated one of her eyes to David Bowie. That's why he has 2 different colored eyes. I am not making this up. She actually told this story in front of people. I'm noticing a pattern. Female compulsive liars all claim to have been pregnant, while male compulsive liars all claim to have been in the military or killed a bear. I had a girlfriend who would constantly lie about stupid things. The worst though was when I was driving home I saw her walking home with her ex-boyfriend who she said she was trying to avoid. I casually texted her asking what her plans were for the day and she said she was going over to his house to pick up some stuff she left there. So not thinking much about it, I was really surprised when she called me crying later that night when I was hanging out with friends to tell me her ex-boyfriend hit her when she tried to take something he claimed was his. She told me this elaborate story about how he threw her to the ground and abused her. Then his father came in when he heard her screaming and beat him in front of her. It sounded really traumatic and I was concerned for her so I dropped everything to go over and see her and spent the night cuddling and trying to calm her down. Found out a week later that she'd gone over to his house and made a move on him to get back together. The abuse she was talking about was him lightly pushing her off as she threw herself at him, as she'd been trying to do since before we started dating. His dad wasn't even in the country. I am a vampire and my wings are growing. In a couple weeks, they'll be fully out and I'll just walk around with my wings sticking out, even at school. True freaking story. He was dead serious. And the guy had never touched drugs or alcohol in his life. He just started in with this one day in the middle of my conversation about a dream I'd had about a vampire with wings. At first, because of my own story, I thought he was making a cheesy, subtle, sarcastic type of comment to mean he was the guy of my dreams. Nope. He lied a lot, I knew, and I'd known him for a few years. But this was one of those things I just wanted to freaking hit him for and walk off. Though, instead, I just laughed it off and avoided him for the rest of high school after that. Had a friend who lied all the time. The one that I still remember is him swearing on his life that his father owned a 1962 Dodge Mustang. Right. There was this chick in my middle school who told everyone that her elderly bus driver was planning to rape her because somehow she just knew it. She got him fired. And this is why America's legal system is fricked. My ex-friend's mom told me she can set things on fire with her mind. Also, Nikki Sixx is madly in love with her. They met when she was a teenager and she miscarried his baby. She knew The Cure before they were a band, despite the fact she would have been no older than 11 or 12 at the time, and she's never left the US. Apparently when her kids were young, she lied to them about a boyfriend she had who they never saw or heard from. Supposedly he had bought them a house, so she drove them to it. They were peering inside the windows, only to see a family in there eating dinner. The family was started freaking out at these strangers watching them eat, and the police were called. She still insists that this ex-boyfriend of hers is real, and that he stalks her. I've posted this elsewhere, but it fits. In my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I had the privilege of knowing Kelsey, the most prolific pathological liar you will ever meet. Among her tales of being a psychic medium, having every natural disaster possible happen to her when she lived in another state, and her ability to talk to animals, Kelsey got pregnant about 3 times. Now, teen pregnancy is a very real thing. But this girl would tell you she was a month along and then come into school the very next day saying she had miscarried. Reminder, this happened at least 3 times, at which point you'd think a doctor would probably have to intervene. Then she actually did have a child at 17. When I was a teenager, my female friends put me through so many OMG I'm a week late I'm pregnant scares that were followed with I miscarried OMG a few weeks later. Young women's reproductive systems being what they are, I assume they decided to dramatize, consciously or through ignorance, a late period as a pregnancy miscarriage situation. My buddy has one of our high school classmates convinced that he spent his Christmas vacation stranded on a fishing boat off the coast of Iceland with a former Icelandic Special Forces operator, a bikini model, and a third person I can't remember. Every time my buddy would see this guy he'd add a new aspect to the story, a steamy encounter with a model, a drunken poker game, a gory encounter with a seal, and this kid would eat it up, even though these Icelandic people have names like Bob and Kerry. To top it off, my friend had been posting to Facebook throughout Christmas break referencing the fact that he was at home in California. Not really a pathological lie, but a lie nonetheless, and a funny one. In middle school, this girl told me that her grandparents owned half of PepsiCo and that she wrote lyrics for Hilary Duff songs. She also said she was suicidal and her grandparents would take me and my other friend to Chicago to Navy Pier and then Six Flags if she didn't kill herself, which was strange. Then she said she had to wear the same shirt every day because she was going poor, even though she is an heir of Pepsi. This one made me sad. I think when you are younger, children lie for different reasons than an adult might. Makes me wonder what was going on in her life then, and prior to this. Stephen Fry's nose is a fashion statement and he can flip it either way. The producers then subsequently mirror the video if so as to not shock the viewers. One of my friends from college told our group the worst lie he could have chosen back in December. He told us that he had gone to the doctors and was informed that he had cancer and could die in 3 months. He showed us letters from doctors and started giving us his possessions. The night he told us, I broke down in front of him because I had just lost my grandmother to cancer a few months earlier. He still continued with this, despite that, saying he wouldn't be back the next semester. He would be taking all of his money and buying us each a present to remember him. He didn't, and then he would blow his life savings traveling. Well, we found out he didn't have cancer and that he wanted his stuff back. What had actually happened was that he got kicked out of the university after achieving the appalling GPA of 0.5 and committing 2 counts of major plagiarism. It was high school graduation and we were all standing in a line, ready to come out and take our seats when this girl a few spots ahead of me finds a Special Honor Society collar that someone accidentally left on the floor. She looks around for the owner for all of 2 minutes before she decides to take it and wear it. She even stood up when they called out names for the Honor Society. I was seriously floored with that one. Turns out that over the years my former best friend would make up little lies and stories. They were harmless but scarily elaborate. 4 years ago she told me she met a guy when she decided to go out to a shopping center by herself. Apparently this guy was enthralled with her and approached her, started talking to her and asked her out. But, unfortunately, he lived halfway across the country, so they kept up an online relationship for about a year. A few months ago, I brought him up, and she told a completely different story. Like, she didn't remember anything about what she originally told me. This time, she said that they met on an MMORPG and that they broke up because he didn't log on for 3 months. She was just embarrassed that she liked a dude on WoW LOL. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.